Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's Wednesday, December the 7th. Quick check there. And I'm Tony Haggerty at ahaggerty10 Twitter handle. And I'm joined today once again by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW and Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C. Macdonald Twitter handle. Morning, gentlemen. How are we all doing?
Not bad, Tony. Aye, yourself?
Indeed, yes. First throws of ice on the grass and stuff this morning in East Kilbride. It's getting cold.
Had all that yesterday in my kitchen.
You did indeed. Getting cold. Now, unfortunately, the three of us are not in the Algarve, unlike the leather belts, and maybe a wee bit warmer over there, Shawnee.
Just a tad, I think.
Indeed. Now, first things first, I'll direct you to the ticker tape running along the bottom. Subscribe to the Celtic Way and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. We've got a deal, always got a deal. This is our Merry Christmas deal, as I say, our December deal. It's £1 for 2 months of full access for everything that's written on the pod, or you can enjoy 25% off the yearly price, which takes it to £26, which is a bargain in itself. So all you have to do is hit that subscribe button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. A bargain, gentlemen, and it's always a bargain when the three of us are on the pod as well.
Some would say, aye. Some would say.
Or the briefing, whatever you want to call it, yes, we'll call it the briefing of the Celtic Way briefing. Yeah, indeed, John. Some would say that, some wouldn't, but there you have it. Well, gentlemen, Celtic are in the Algarve. They are warming up for the recommencement of domestic football, and they will play a game against Rennes on Saturday. Hopefully Callum McGregor gets some minutes in that, but I think they arrived yesterday in the Algarve. Lucky for some, Sean, isn't it? But it's been all very cloak and dagger and all kind of under the radar, this particular trip, unlike the Australian trip, which was much heralded, but this is a wee bit more of a low-key affair, isn't it?
It is, aye. Speaking of heating up, or warming up, Michael Ross comes in saying, hope your heating's working, Sean. It is not. It's not working. So me, my wife, my baby and my dog have all decanted up to my mum's house because it's absolutely freezing. But no, in terms of the Algarve, Tony, yep, they flew out yesterday, or they flew out already anyway, for some warm weather training, and then a behind closed doors friendly against Rennes on Saturday, which the club has, let's just say, been reluctant to comment on. Rennes announced it.
Yes.
Celtic haven't really gave it any sort of mention whatsoever. The understanding is it won't be broadcast, but until the club confirm one way or another, you just never know, I suppose. But in terms of Callum McGregor, I think that's the main storyline from this, isn't it? To see how far his recovery has stepped up, how far it's progressed. It's not the end of the world, I would say, if it's only maybe 10 minutes in this Rennes game, or he's even just there for the training, as long as he's there for the training like he was in Australia. But
indeed,
Matt O'Reilly can still play in that role to good effect, as we've seen in that kind of run of 11, 12 games that McGregor's been out. And there's a clutch of games to come from next Saturday when they go to Pittodrie. And as I said last week, I think it was, I'd be looking at probably minimal game time at Pittodrie, maybe even against Livingston, unless he's really flying. Don't get me wrong, unless he's really flying and he's totally ready. And then maybe look to step it up against St Johnstone and Hibs ahead of that New Year derby.
Aidan, can you see the benefit of going to the Algarve? Sean pointed out the biggest benefit they are trying to get Callum McGregor game time and some minutes. Is that beneficial for you from a Celtic perspective?
Definitely. I mean, being able to get the captain back as soon as possible should be one of the sort of main aims for the medical team. So if that's going to help him, then I'm all for it. It would be great if he could get some minutes in this friendly and then maybe across the first few games with, as we discussed last week, I think it was, hopefully by the time Celtic are going to play Rangers at Ibrox, he's near enough back to his sort of best. So yeah, in terms of that aspect, I think it's well worthwhile if he's going to be getting some minutes, Tony, definitely.
Good. Guys, get your questions fired into the comment section. We're going to have a wee Q&A as well, and we'll endeavour to answer them as best as we can.
We've got one we can ask right away, Tony. I think you've probably spotted it there. First one wasn't a question, it was warning, wardrobe overload, and that is because Robert comes back in and says, Sean, is that a wardrobe behind you? It is a wardrobe behind me. Unfortunately, according to JP, it's not Tony's wardrobe. It's not the wardrobe, but it is our wardrobe.
We having wardrobe wars, Aidan. Wardrobe wars.
I'm feeling left out. I've not got a wardrobe.
Aidan's just got a picture behind him. That's
Yeah, indeed. Are you feeling left out, son? Well, you know what to do. Get your wardrobe near you for the future. There you have it. Yeah, so as I say, get your questions coming in the comment section, and the three amigos or the three stooges, Larry, Curly, and Mo, will do our best to endeavour to answer them if that's.
Hey, John Hill coming in, Tony, with
Yep.
just a bit of context, a bit of perspective, saying no need to rush McGregor. We have a squad to cover injuries now, thanks to Ange. And Andrew Galea kind of echoing that, saying what we've learned is McGregor doesn't have to play every minute of every game, which was always the key question, wasn't it, Tony? It was always right. It's all good saying rotation, but when is McGregor actually going to get rotated unless he's injured? Obviously, it was when he got injured. But I think that O'Reilly can cover that technical aspect of it to a great extent. Maybe still not quite, obviously, given age and experience, not quite the McGregor level, because nobody is. But given that he can fill in that gap for extended periods, he's right, isn't he? You shouldn't be looking at McGregor to play every minute of every game.
Of course, and I think the manager will have that well in hand, Aidan. I don't think he would be the type to rush McGregor back at all and just introduce him, as Sean said there, with minutes here and there, and the Aberdeen game, Livingston game, obviously with a view to going to Ibrox on January the 2nd. I think that's the one that you would obviously want him as a certain starter, but if he's not ready, he's not ready.
Yeah, I don't think he'll rush him back. It was just obviously based off Andrew's comments. I think it was just before Celtic played Ross County in that last match of the domestic season before the World Cup break, and then over in Australia, he was talking as if to say that he's not that far away. So based off that fact, it would assume that he's hopefully going to be getting some minutes in the near future. But I do agree with what the commenters are saying. You don't want to be, putting him at risk of a further injury and keeps him out even longer. So I'm sure the medical staff and Ange will manage McGregor's minutes. Even when he's back fully fit, I think going forward he'll not be playing every single game, because obviously he's still in his peak years. He's not anywhere near the end of his career, but he is, getting a wee bit older. So I don't think we're going to all the way back to seeing him playing like the most minutes in Europe. No player should be, regardless of age or, where they're at their career. So yeah, I think there'll be more management of these minutes going forward, definitely.
Excellent. Now, Sean, something to come out of Josip Juranovic's run to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. It's taken another kind of, it's moved forward slightly. Spanish reports saying that they're going to send a scouting or a delegation to scout him against Brazil and see what he does like against them, see how he performs against Brazil, who lots of people are tipping to go on and win the tournament. They were very impressive the other night against South Korea. But that seems to have moved on a wee bit then. That Atletico Madrid's interest is maybe firming up. I mean, there's been nothing in terms of bids or anything like that, but maybe taking a keen eye and maybe want to see him perform against some of the best players in the world to see if that interest will be followed up with a concrete offer.
I suppose I'd ask, does it really change anything? The reported interest means since the summer, obviously the reported interest since the summer means they likely have a scout report already, and this is just like a follow-up one. The fact it's against Brazil though, and probably directly up against your man Vinicius Junior, Tony, could swing it one way or the other for him though, you'd imagine.
He's played Vinicius Junior before, Aidan.
Yeah.
Aye, it was obviously not an easy game for him that night, as it wouldn't be for any player. But obviously the interest does seem to develop a wee bit more, so we'll just need to wait and see.
I mean, is that an indication for you, Sean, that that if all parties are agreeable that a deal could be struck? Does that indicate to you, or do you still see it as you just said there, nothing much has changed, but is it kind of the scales and the balance tipping slightly towards Juranovic heading for the exit door, given the fact that Johnston came in as well and there's been this talk since the summer?
The context of Alistair Johnston arriving suggests that at the very least Celtic are very much open to selling Juranovic if an offer comes in that they deem as acceptable. So, but then again, I would have argued that would have been the same at any point with pretty much any player. If an acceptable bid comes in, Celtic will listen to it. It just depends what constitutes an acceptable bid, I suppose. So in terms of this I think it's El Gol report. Yes, I don't think it really changes anything in terms of it's not a new club, it's not a thing. But saying that they want a scout report on this game, I suppose at the very least it could move it on slightly.
Now, Aidan, if he feels better against Vinicius Junior this time, do you think that could seal a deal, or do you still see him staying there? You're very much a kind of player might stay to the end of the season and learn. Alistair Johnston could learn the same way that Matt O'Reilly learned off Tom Rogic for that kind of 6 months. You still in that camp? You still think he'll stay, or do you see him moving on?
I think if he has a good performance against Vinicius Junior, then it's going to be quite hard to keep a hold of him, Tony, to be honest. Yeah, obviously, I've mentioned before that I'm a big fan of Juranovic, and I know that he has struggled at times this season, but I think it would be good if he was able to stay even to the summer window, just as for like that example you highlighted with sort of Rogic and O'Reilly, him and Johnson, him and Ralston, etc., to give Johnson a wee bit more time to bed in. But I understand, obviously, that's the ideal scenario. Things don't always work out like that. But if he has a really good performance against Brazil, then yeah, it's going to make it even more difficult to keep him.
Now, Aidan, Aidan said that Juranovic would remain the penalty taker at Celtic because he's done nothing wrong. Didn't see him step up to the plate the other night when Croatia went to penalties. I thought he'd have been one of the first to take one, but no, he didn't.
Sure he'll be the next one, Aidan, innit?
Nowhere to be seen.
The next name on the list.
Aye, we just need to wait and see that one, Tony. I mean, I didn't want to bring up anything else about the World Cup, but
yeah.
By the way, speaking of the World Cup and speaking of penalties, did you see Akram Hakimi last night? Fair play. Panenka in Spain out of the last 16. Pity none of us took Morocco for the dark horses.
Yeah, it was showed some battle to do that, Sean, but I guess great players have confidence in themselves and they do that. I think Juranovic did that, his first penalty.
I was going to say, Aidan's right in there with a Juranovic Panenka did.
Real Betis, so you know it's how you feel about penalties, isn't it?
Plus, Giacomakis is a penalty taker anyway. Remember, that's what Andrew's saying.
What's that? 4 out of 14 he's missed, I believe, Sean. Is that right?
I can't remember. Maybe it's time I dove into it again.
Doesn't sound too far away, Tony, to be fair.
I think he scored 10 out of 14 and missed 4, but hey, there you have it.
Just don't go bottom left, you're just. Just don't go bottom left.
Well, but he likes the bottom left, doesn't he? And that's the problem.
Well, he likes to go there, but he misses it when he goes there. So.
Yes. Now, speaking of Juranovic up against Vinicius Junior, played him before in the Champions League. Sean, I think was it Michael Ross that asked you to compile Champions League power rankings, which you did, and you put it on the website and you put it on in the comments section there, and you want to have a read at this, guys. It's excellent. It's an excellent piece of writing and just brilliant use of the stats. And what's your takeaways from that, Sean, in general?
The main takeaway is the more things change, the more they stay the same. I suppose because Big Carter Vickers is top of this one as well. I don't know if either of you will be surprised by that, but for those of you who subscribe to the newsletter, which is free by the way, you'll have read this last night. But everyone else, it's on the website today, and the links in the comments there. Each player has a wee Champions League standout stat accompanying their entry. Like the big power rankings, we won't spend too much time on this one, like the big ones, but like the proper ones. But I thought I'd throw it up anyway because it was, after all, of Michael Ross, a viewer of the podcast or a viewer of the briefing that asked, could I separate out the Champions League only marks? So I thought I'll do it as a newsletter. The cut-off for the proper one was 20% of all competitive minutes. The cut-off for this one, because it's only 6 games that you could have played, it was 25% of all Champions League group stage minutes, which meant David Turnbull didn't make it and James Forrest didn't make it. For instance, there was other players that were further away from making it naturally that didn't play at all, for instance. So 15 players made it. Tony, you were saying you found it interesting that 4 players played every single minute. Do you remember who they were?
Joe Hart, Maurice Gents, Greg Taylor, and Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Nope, Juranovic. Hart, Juranovic, Taylor, Jens played every minute, all 572 when you take in stoppage time and all that. But 6 players played in every game. Sorry, 6 players. A further 5 players played in every game. So Hatate, O'Reilly, Haksabanovic, Giacomakis and Maida all made 6 appearances, albeit not all starts. But that was the final rankings, which I think Hatate will probably surprise most that he's quite low down. But he had a couple of 8s, and then he wasn't particularly a standout player after that. Is anybody catching your eye, Aidan? But for better or for worse?
Yeah, it's probably quite similar to how I was going to expect in terms of particularly that top half. Obviously, I do know that even though he might have struggled at times, Jens did play pretty much every minute, so I did kind of expect him to be up there. I think overall it's probably relative as I thought it would be, Sean. Particularly given obviously the previous power rankings that you did recently. So I wouldn't say anybody really stands out that much. Just once again, Carter Vickers, as Tony says, he's always an 8 or a 9, isn't he? So it's not really surprised to see him up front. But
note to self, Sean, there'll be a quiz about this kind of thing later in the season.
There probably will be, yep.
I can see Sean giving it his kind of, rubbing his hands there. So absorb as much information as you can from it before it disappears and take it in. But no, I don't know. The top kind of 6 for me would be, well, maybe with the exception of Hatate, possibly, but I'm quite happy with the top 8, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought Taylor might have been a wee
higher up.
I'm like a broken record saying that, but I did think he was a wee bit higher because he was very consistent in the Champions League this year. I thought Real Madrid game aside, but then everybody that played in the Real Madrid game was not getting the best of marks, really, the second Real Madrid game. So that should have kind of evened that out. But I feel the ones that benefited from missing games, I suppose, probably Carter Vickers, Jota, and McGregor, because Carter Vickers missed 2 games. Obviously, never played in that last Real Madrid game. Was played well in every other game that he played. Jota obviously had a sub appearance against Real Madrid, but Callum McGregor played in only the first 3 and got injured in the third one, but he still met the minutes threshold as he did in the big power rankings for the competitive minutes. It wasn't actually that close either. Same as always with McGregor, you don't drop him. He needs to be injured for him to be at the team, really. So he met the minutes threshold comfortably. He obviously got injured in the Leipzig game, but the 2 games before that, he carried good marks and that kind of shot him up. Kyogo surprised you, Tony, considering that he missed a few chances. Maeda, who famously missed the best chances, is away down in 11th there. Kyogo, obviously, does that suggest to you his performances actually out with the chances missed were actually quite good?
But Kyogo, that was the kind of dichotomy with Kyogo in the Champions League. His actual performances weren't bad because he was still making the runs and getting into positions, but he missed chances, didn't he? And I think that was a kind of glaring stat from his Champions League displays, that he had no goals in the 6 games, but he had chances to score. But Real Madrid game apart, I don't think you could kind of level the fact that he didn't have many bad games in terms of performance. He shone up okay, didn't he, with these average ratings, I think?
Yeah, plus there was that game he played in kind of midfield.
Yes.
And I did the ratings in that game, and I think somebody did say I gave him too high a rating, but I was kind of accounting for the fact that he was playing out of position. I thought he did quite well.
Yeah.
But it's almost a bit of fun. It was fulfillment of Michael's request, so I thought I'll do it as a newsletter. It's not got like in the big rankings that I keep calling them, the proper power rankings that we award the player of the season from and all that. Every player's got a wee write up, some stats, maybe some graphics, some stats bomb, all that kind of stuff. And this one, because it was kind of a bonus entry, rather than a blob of as I say, I've included a wee standout stat from just the Champions League games from Y Scout. So yeah, it's there, it's in the comments, it's on the website, so give it a wee read.
I think Aidan is kind of in isolation, because that was almost like that was a Champions League kind of season, wasn't it? So you take that in isolation, and it was a good thing to do. It was a worthwhile exercise to compile the power rankings for that.
Yeah, no, it was interesting just to see it in a sort of smaller sample size. Just when you mentioned Kyogo, just to touch on that, obviously he did miss a few chances, but I think his performances overall do justify him being in that sort of top 5. Such as he obviously got an assist for Jota's goal away to Leipzig, etc. So he was still contributing, and making the right runs, getting in good positions and that. So even though he's maybe finishing wasn't up to scratch, overall, I would say he still deserves his position.
Now, yesterday, we mentioned the Celtic B team, didn't we, guys? And what did we do? We put the commentators curse, the hex, the jinx, call it what you like, Indian sign on them as they lost to Berwick Rangers last night, Aidan, didn't they? 3-1. And we were telling them that everybody that they were ticking along nicely and all going well. Crash, bang, wallop. What a picture. Aidan, what happened?
Well, they lost 3-1, Tony, to be blunt. That's what happened.
Well, there you have it, eh?
They couldn't score as many as the opposition.
It wasn't. You need to score to win games. It's interesting, that one. But obviously it was not an ideal performance from the Celtic B team. I mean, it doesn't affect their standing that much. They're sitting third still in the Lowland League, so it's obviously still a lot to play for. We know they can't get promoted, but just in terms of, I said I'd want to try and be top of the tree come end of the season. It's not really affected their standing that much, but they'll be a bit disappointing. And of course, obviously, after we were talking them up for after we were talking them up,
1-3 mystery solved.
Aye, pretty much. So we'll just, if we don't talk about the B team for a few months now, then I'm sure they'll be fine. But
Cowdenbeath next up on Saturday, Tony.
What's that?
It's Cowdenbeath next up for them on Saturday. I think it is, and that is, of course, a team that we mentioned yesterday in terms of them plummeting from the Championship to the bottom 5 of the Lowland League, which I'm now beginning to think. I'm hoping that we've not jinxed the B team boys a second time by mentioning that.
You couldn't make it up, could you? We kind of focus on the B team and they go and lose. You just thought, honest to goodness, it was yes, Tam Mac, he's jinxed them all right. We did indeed. But there you have it. These things happen, don't they? But yes, hopefully, as Aidan says, next time we mention them or we give them a good writer, they still continue to do well. But I can't believe the fact that we brought it up yesterday and saying things were hunky-dory and all of a sudden they lose. But there you go. Now, something else that came out overnight was Cho's father actually came out in the press and spoke. I think you wrote a piece on it, Aidan, did you not, about the fact that his father has told him to pick a team in Europe that suits his style rather than a big name. And lots of people are putting 2 and 2 together, coming up with 5 and 4 and whatever you want to.
Celtic ticked both those boxes, then, did they not?
Yes, indeed. that was the dot joining the dots, Sean. That was the subtext to that about, he told him to go to a team and develop as a player and all that kind of stuff. So having ruled out Galatasaray and Rennes,
Fenerbahce, I think it was.
Fenerbahce, that all the roads were pointing to Celtic. Aidan, do you go along with that? Does that give you a bit more confidence? Do you think, can you see that happening, or do you think his father was just saying, well, these 2 are out the picture, but there are others in the frame?
Obviously, when you see comments like that, you do kind of just put 2 and 2 together, and Celtic do fit that profile exactly of what his father described. If those comments obviously kind of chime in with what his representatives were saying a couple of days ago, I think that was, that there's been interest from the European clubs, and sort of if he is going to move on from the K-League, it's probably going to be to a club in Europe. So obviously Celtic are in that exact bracket now. We don't know how many clubs are interested. There could be, 10, 15, etc. But in terms of, a team that's not a big name that he can sort of hone his craft for like a couple of seasons and then potentially move on again, Celtic would fit that sort of exact project model. So it would be interesting that he definitely, based off his stats and sort of brief footage that I've seen at the World Cup, I know we kind of discussed you couldn't really judge him on the game against Brazil because that was really tough. None of the players for South Korea were able to get involved in the game that much, but he obviously get his goals against Ghana, and the other times when he came on, he always looked relatively dangerous. So I would be happy if Celtic were to at least ask the question in regards to him. Do you know what I mean? But anyway,
John.
Yep, I mean that kind of report yesterday from his dad, it was a sensible fatherly thing to say, I suppose. Just basically when you go to Europe, don't just go for a name, pick a club that will suit the way you want to play football. I think that's a fair and sensible thing to tell to tell your son or to tell anybody that you're giving advice to. But what I will say is, remember, there's currently a scout report from Stuart Ross on the website on Joe, comparing him with another striking target, Saeed Hamulic, which is well worth a read. I'll dig it out and put it in the comments just now. Yep, that's it. Tony, on the subject of transfers, we'll not spend too much on it because we talked about it yesterday, but Sean Corrin's coming in just saying, guys, what about the Al Ahly midfielder? We're supposed to be interested in Mohamed Magdi. We kind of touched on him yesterday. I admitted, I think if it does grow arms and legs more than what it has in the last few days, then I think it's an exciting signing. The club he's coming from excites me. That kind of thing, his record in the AFC Champions League excites me. I don't think there's any update today, is there? Have I missed anything?
No, I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of, but hey, Aidan, have you noticed anything?
No, not this morning. Before logging on, I hadn't seen anything unless something's broke about it since we sort of came on air type thing. But yeah, obviously we did touch on it yesterday. He's another one that looks a really, really exciting prospect, and if there becomes more sort of concrete interest, that would be another really positive signing to boost the quality of the squad.
Any other questions, Sean? Any comments coming in?
I'm just going to throw one up from Kaiser just because I find it quite amusing. He says, Bella Cho, he already has a song. I like that.
Yeah, you have it.
Kaiser also says his heating broke last night. I've got my sympathies. It's no laughing matter. I've got a couple of comments, more comments than questions, although there is a question here. Kirsty O'Connor. A bit doom and gloom here. Who y'all going to miss most at the end of the season, she says.
I'll let you know, Kirsty, when
somebody actually leaves.
That exit door revolves and somebody actually leaves, yeah. At this moment in time, I'm just praying that they all stay. And Ange works his magic and tells them all to stay and they get into the Champions League and have another crack at it. And then after that, I'd start worrying if that eventuality happens. But
if I was being glib, I suppose I could say Michael Beale, but that would be very, very cheeky.
That's very glib.
Aidan, you answering the question, or are you pleading the fifth like Tony there?
I think I'll plead the fifth, and I don't think I'll repeat your comment, Sean.
No.
Yes. Was one there with Sean.
A couple of other comments. JP came in saying he's a bit of an anorak and he loves the stats stuff that he gets on the Celtic way. Appreciate that. And John Boy comes in saying, great show as usual, guys. Merry Christmas to you all and yourself, John. And Tony, it's time to take a wee koala bear out of the wardrobe. Remember, a koala is not just for Christmas, he says.
Oh, there you go. The intrigue about the wardrobe, something else, isn't it? One day, I promise I'll dig the Super Striker and I'll let you see it in all its splendour and glory. In fact, you know what we should have? We should have a Celtic Way tournament, Sean, with the three of us. Super Striker tournament. Right. I think that's what should happen. What do you think, Aidan?
If we go well, it's like home and away leg. Then if we play you at Super Striker, you've got to play us at FIFA.
That's fine, but fair enough. I'll declare myself. I'll finish in the bronze medal position at FIFA right now. So there you go. But hey, Super Striker, I think he's up against it, chaps.
Analog versus digital, Aidan, isn't it?
Correct, window.
I'd be struggling at both of them, to be honest. But
could compile the power rankings on that one, Aidan. That'd be great fun. But yes, never open the wardrobe. Never open the wardrobe and criminate yourself to the picture of first coming in there. Yes, indeed. But no, the clock ticks down to domestic football returning. We can't wait, guys. It's been a while. It's we're missing it, aren't we? We're missing our diet of regular domestic football. But as Sean's just put up, we're more than a podcast, and I direct you to the ticker tape at the bottom of your screen. You subscribe. We've got a December deal going on, Merry Christmas deal. You get 25% off for limited time of the yearly subscription rate, which takes it to £26, which is a great bargain. And £1 for 2 months of full access to everything that's written on the website. And Kevin McKenna's done an opinion piece today, hasn't he, Sean?
Yes, he's Kevin McKenna on Celtic. Yep, Kevin McKenna on Celtic is what I keep calling it these days. It's kind of because one, it's good for the search engine, but also two, because it's Kevin McKenna writing on Celtic. So he's been doing his column the last couple of weeks on because there's no actual football. well, no Celtic football. He's been doing it on a couple of topics at a time. So this week he covers Peter Lawwell's return, which is the main thing. Peter Lawwell's return. He's seen Ian Maxwell, friend of the show, I'm sure. Ian Maxwell, Scottish football, and he heard that he was asked about VAR, so he kind of asked the question: have Celtic had any answers whatsoever about the implementation of VAR while there's been a break? He then moves on to talking about Scotland at a World Cup and why he feels they're not actually that close to getting back to that kind of promised land. It might have something to do with the agricultural style of football practice in the country, he feels. And then he rounds it off with a wee ditty on Ange Postecoglou and I think you used this term for him as well, Tony, but the statesman-like presence that he has as the kind of leader of Celtic Football Club, in terms of the way that he one, doesn't let anybody away with anything, but also two, isn't willingly offering up boasts. And I think there's maybe things elsewhere in the media that prompted that from Kevin as well, that prompted him to draw that comparison. So I've put the link in the comments. Kevin's column's always worth a read. It covers a couple of different topics, as I say, including Peter Lawwell's return.
Well, as you can see, you can read all that on the website and hit the subscribe button, guys, and join us. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. A short one today, gentlemen. Shorter than, but hey, it's over half an hour. We can always talk at length about Celtic. But Celtic continue their kind of build up in the Algarve to domestic football coming back. They're in hot climes. We're not, sadly. We're freezing back here. Sean's particularly freezing because his heating's packed in. But here's hoping he warms up, Aidan. I'm looking at your hoodie, Aidan, and thinking it's cold down where you are as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's always cold down here, to be honest. So it's like I had my hoodies on in the summer, Tony. So,
Indeed. Guys, thanks for your contribution today. Always appreciate it. First class, Aidan. Terrific, Sean. Thanks for the comments, guys, and your questions as well. Hope we did our best to answer them as fully as we could. We'll not mention the B team in case we jinxed them. We'll leave it at that. See where they finish at the end of the season. But troops, we'll do it all again tomorrow, same time, same bat channel, 10 o'clock, or thereabouts. Thereabouts. Give ourselves that out. But thanks for everything, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Tony. Cheers, Aidan. Cheers, guys.